The gods allowed unholy forces to slip into our domain. The offspring of that cataclysm was the nefarious force called magic. Yet we did not banish it, instead studying the vile arcane for our own power and wealth.
Welcome to another Witcher lore video. So I had a suggestion the other day and somebody wanted me to cover magic. And I have briefly covered it in my Conjunction of Spheres video, but I never went fully into it and every part of that within the Witcher universe. So I've decided to make today's video on magic. And I'm not going to get into every guild that uses magic or anything like that, as that'll be for later videos. I'm just going to discuss the primeval force that is magic and how it works. So to begin with, magic is thought to have arrived on the world during the Conjunction of Spheres. And if you don't know what that is, go and watch my Conjunction video, but on a very basic level, it's when a bunch of worlds aligned and then a lot of different creatures got transported from one world to another, and a lot of different forces got transported from one world to another. And that's what happened with magic. Magic got transported from one world to this world, the Witcher world. And there's a couple theories as to where magic came from, but the most commonly agreed theory is that it came from the magical planes. And the magical planes are where Jinns are from. And I imagine a lot of you all know what a Jinn is, because a Jinn is what appears in The Last Wish in both the game and in the books. The Last Wish being a mission in The Witcher 3 and being a short story in the Witcher books. And a Jinn is pretty much just a ball of magic that has a kind of personality, I guess. And there are Jinns from each different plane, so for example, let's say fire. Fire's a plane. So it's thought that magic came from these planes during the Conjunction of Spheres and landed in sources dotted around the world. So these sources in the world are found in 4 different places: in the earth, in the water, in the air, and in fire. So it's a bit difficult to describe, but think about it as there are these big sort of blobs of magic around the world, and it's invisible to the naked eye. But if you're a sorcerer or a sorceress, and you can sense these sources, you can use your own magical abilities to draw power from them. It's like, imagine you have a mana bar in a game, a mana bar that won't restore until you've had a mana potion. These sources are pretty much like those potions. They restore the mana into you, and then you can use magic from that source. And sorcerers and sorceresses draw from these sources, as does pretty much every magic user in the Witcher world. One source that people don't generally draw from is fire, and that's because drawing from fire is very, very dangerous. So spoiler to begin with, I'll give you a few seconds. In the books, Ciri draws from fire. She hears a voice calling out to her, calling her Falker, and she gets scared and she overuses her power and creates a rainstorm in the middle of a desert. And at that point she shuts herself off from the magic, and then it actually never comes back. She can't use magic anymore. I mean, obviously she can use the Elder Blood, but she can't use magic like, say, Yennefer. So using fire as a source is very dangerous in the Witch universe. I'm not entirely sure as to why, but it's probably because fire is just a dangerous element in general. So this is a fact that I imagine a lot of you might not actually know, and it's that not everyone in the Witcher world can learn magic. So only people who show aptitude in magic are taken in by sorceresses and witches. Because even though witches use signs, which is considered a very weak form of magic that isn't exactly impressive, you still have to be able to have a connection to these sources to be able to use it. So for example, you could argue that Geralt's connection came from his mother, who is a sorceress, and you could argue that the other witches might just have some connection to it in general. Generally, there's this entire belief that any person that becomes a Witcher is destined to be a Witcher, which is why most of the time they can use magic, because it's a whole destiny element to it. It's the same case with sorceresses and sorcerers. All of them were born with the ability to be able to use magic, or have some sort of connection to it in some way. You could say that most people in the world can communicate with magic in this way, but there's a lot of people that also can't. So if a sorcerer or sorceress wants to use strong magic, they generally have to use hand gestures and spells, just because, say, for example, not like a sign, it's a very, very strong form of magic and you have to focus it more. But one of the downsides of using magic is that it can cause infertility in mages, but some actually don't have infertility. That's very, very rare numbers of them, but pretty much all of them are infertile. It's not entirely clear why it doesn't let them reproduce, but it's thought that magic can interfere with the sex cells and cause them to just basically become blanks, I guess you could say. And something interesting is that not only humans have worked out how to use magic. For example, if you think about a fiend with its third eye, it can use magic. It somehow draws from these sources like everybody has to, or perhaps a fiend is a source itself, and then it can use this magic. So I briefly touched on it then, but there are these parts of magic called sources. So I talked about the sources in earth, water, air, and fire, but people can actually be sources too. For example, you have Alvin and Jackender Aldersberg in The Witcher 1, who are both sources of magic, and you have Ciri, who is also a source of magic. And this is because of the Elder Blood, and the Elder Blood itself is a source of magic. For example, if Ciri wants to use her power, she doesn't really have to draw from anywhere to use it. She can just kind of do it herself because she is a source of magic. You may be wondering, because in the books, Ciri did have to draw magic to be able to use spells, but I believe it's because the Elder Blood is a completely different type of magic. You can't really draw from that to do normal spells, but you can draw from it to do the Elder Blood abilities. An interesting little fact for you guys is that it's actually said that Geralt could become quite a strong mage if he wanted to, he just doesn't really have any interest. And this is because Vilgefortz does actually offer him a position and says, I'd like to train you, I think that you could be really good in magic, but Geralt just refuses and says, I just want to be a witcher. And it's quite interesting because you wouldn't have thought that Geralt would have this kind of amazing ability, considering that he just seems to be a witcher, really good at fighting, really good at signs, but not really much else, combat-wise. But Geralt does actually have the ability to, say, do a spell like Yennefer. At least that's what's thought. You can't be sure with a lot of this stuff, it's just offhand comments by certain people. So I've got two more things I want to cover in this very, very basic video on magic, and one of them is Dimeritium, and another is I want to read an extract from the world of The Witcher. So Dimeritium's a little bit of a confusing one, as it isn't known whether or not it came with the conjunction of spheres or is a natural metal of the Witcher world. But I'm going to assume it probably came from the conjunction of spheres, as it seems like it's kind of a useless metal to have if magic didn't exist in the world to begin with. So what Dimeritium does is it pretty much just stops magic from being able to be used, and no one's really gone in depth as to why it doesn't let people use magic, but I can come up with a few theories just off the top of my head. For example, if you think about when you put a phone in a lead box, it can't connect to anything signal-wise because it has something blocking it. It's too difficult for the phone signal to get out of that box, so it just remains in that box. I feel like Dimeritium's the same. I imagine it almost like if you have a sponge in water, it just absorbs the magic and doesn't let you use it. But there is no actual confirmation as to how Dimeritium works, but we can just assume it's probably something like that. So finally, to end today's video, I'm going to read this extract from the world of The Witcher. There are multiple scholarly definitions of the term magic. I could cite them all, pointing out their various inconsistencies and pondering which should be considered most correct, but I will not. Instead, I will borrow the words I heard from my own mistress when I was a young and inexperienced sorceress and put forth a similar question. Magic is oftentimes referred to as the art. This is no coincidence. Magic is perceived by many as an elite discipline, requiring artistry and talent, and indeed, very few possess the immense creative abilities needed to wield it. Those with magical talent can use it to create things of awe and beauty, wonders without which the world would certainly be a more miserable place. Therefore, those who name magic a beautiful blessing, brought forth into this world by the conjunction of spheres, are in a sense correct. Magic has also been called chaos incarnate, a primal, dangerous force, merciless and destructive. In the hands of the unwary, it becomes a key that can open the forbidden door, behind which lies ruin and destruction. Therefore, those who say that magic is a curse born of chaos during the conjunction of spheres that will doom this world are also correct. Finally, according to the others, magic is science. That is knowledge, which can only be acquired through extensive study, discipline, and hard work. In this view, magic is progress. It is the process of constant advancement, initiated during the conjunction of spheres, which brings development, eliminates the ailments of the world, provides answers to the questions that plague mankind, broadens minds, and introduces innovation. It is therefore also correct to say that magic is its own particular science. In the end, magic is all three of the above. It is art, chaos, and science. A blessing, a curse, and progress. It all depends on who calls upon it and for what purpose. Magic stems from nature. It is in the earth we walk upon, in the fire burning in its hearth, in the air we breathe, and in the water which brings life and which flows within us. If you happen to be gifted with the particular talent, all you need to do is reach out your hand and grasp the magic all around you. So that's the end of today's video, guys. I hope you've got a better idea of how magic works and what it is. I will cover the actual magical places eventually, like at, say, Orlando, which is where people get taught magic. Say the Druids, which is just an entire different discipline of magic. There's entire different guilds that are dedicated to this one force, so it's very, very interesting to cover those all eventually. But for now, I feel like you guys have got a general idea of what magic is. So if you've enjoyed today's video, remember that these videos do take me a long time to make. I don't currently have any advertisements on them, so if you click the like button, it really helps me out, and it's just very kind of you. If you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed today's video and you want to see more Witcher lore video, I'm going to try and do some Witcher news and maybe even some just general game news, some playthroughs and stuff. Be sure to click the subscribe button, as I hope I'll be one of the YouTubers that you enjoy watching. Also, be sure to follow my Twitter. I do updates on there pretty much all the time. I update whenever I post a video. I update whenever anything's happening that's important. So if you follow me on there, you'll get that tweet when that happens. And I don't Twitter spam. I maybe do one tweet every sort of time I upload a video, which is not every day, so you'll see if you go and follow me on there. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitch. I've played a lot of games on there recently. I had a lot of fun with you guys yesterday. I'm sorry a lot of you seem to miss the streams. It's because I stream so late, and I know that, and I apologize, but I have a lot of fun. I just really enjoy doing that, so I'm sure you'll all enjoy watching that. Also, thank you so much to the Patreon pledges. You guys are honestly awesome. Thank you to anyone that donates to me on there. It's very kind of you, and it just helps me out with everything. Honestly, I plan to save this money eventually more and more until I can get some better stuff for the videos, make everything a bit better, and it's just very kind that you guys donate. As always, the links for everything I've talked about in this outro are in the description, so if you want to donate, if you want to follow me on Twitter, and if you want to follow me on Twitch, or if you want to do all of them, they're all down there, so go and check them out. Anyway guys, I'll see you all later, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have an awesome week, or weekend, depending on when you're watching this.